Hi there, my name's Gareth. I'm a vicar in Coventry, lead a church there with my wife Jenny and our staff team. And I want to tell you one way that we are coming to understand the church as both gathered and as scattered, God's people when they gather together, but also when He sends them out and disperses them into community, into society, and into the world. I'd like to tell you the story of one of our recently formed missional communities. They're called Trinity Treasures. And it started a couple of years ago, just before COVID hit, when a couple in our church had been, I guess God was shaping their heart and moving their hearts for the young people in our community. And they went on a retreat and they came back with some ideas, and then COVID happened, and jump forward until last autumn. They now host a meal in their home once a week, and they've got teenagers themselves, and there are a number of teenagers in the church, and they gathered them together and they said, we'd love to have you guys round for a meal together, and there's another leader that comes in to help. And what's become out of this community is a bunch of teenagers who initially were a little bit hostile with each other. There was a little bit of aggro, a little bit of uncertainty, a lot of nervousness, a lot of I don't eat that, and I don't want to sit there, and I don't want to help with the washing up. And slowly and surely, through a lot of perseverance and persistence and modelling what it means to love one another through difference, but over a shared activity of a meal, this beautiful community has now emerged of about 14 to 15 teenagers. And the couple have said they can't really fit any more in their house, and they're trying to work out how to develop that, keep that special, but also make space for more. And it's a mixture of teenagers who are part of the church family, or their parents are kind of involved in leadership in the church, or they come on Sundays, but also some who perhaps grew up in the church, and as they've kind of become their own person in their kind of teenage years, have perhaps stopped coming or made an active choice that church on Sundays or kind of Sunday school wasn't for them, and yet they found this as a place that they can come back. And initially it just started very simple: eating a meal, sharing what they're thankful for, and playing some games. And over time they're now beginning to kind of move into what you might say slightly more spiritual activity. So they now kind of, there's opportunity to do some craft or some art or some Bible study, or some prayer, and that's a lovely thing. And what we've kind of reflected is it probably wouldn't have worked if they'd started it in a church or a church hall setting. There's something very simple and non-threatening about doing it in a normal space, a non-churchy space, even though we would want to say it is fully church in the whole meaning of that word, or is at least on the way to becoming that. How does it link with church gathered? To say there's a real kind of overlap between the young people that might come on Sundays, and we've got a youth group and a youth session that runs on Sundays. There's overlap, there's invitation between them when they're kind of out in the community, in the home on a Thursday, to kind of being invited into and participating in some of the wildlife. And interesting, some of the teenagers that have kind of come back have now started coming and helping other things in the life of the church, in our community garden, our Hope Hub food bank, in our messy church. And so it's really kind of modelled just building relationships of trust, building a safe place where young people can feel heard and known and valued and loved. And yes, kind of at times challenged. I'm not saying it's been like completely swimmingly, particularly for they've gotten a lot of patience, and it's been brilliant to just kind of support them. So I guess my challenge, or my thing I would encourage you to think about, is how can you use shared meals to build community in homes and neutral spaces that I think connect and reach and grow something that's different than if you do it in a more institutional church or church hall setting. And particularly, how do you create a culture where everyone is a participant and a co-host in that space, rather than being a recipient or a client? I think the church does brilliant stuff, and we do that kind of feeding people and bringing people in on our terms in our space where we define the culture. But there's something about doing that in a co-creation mode, where kind of everyone's expected to contribute. Everyone at some point takes turns doing the washing up. Everyone takes turns to share the table and decide, what game we're going to play, what Bible study we're going to do today. So how do you use kind of neutral spaces or homes, if appropriate, to do and shared meals to build community of trust that invite people into the wider relationship of the church and obviously relationship with Jesus. And I think the passage that has encouraged us, that encourages me the most, and kind of roots a lot of this stuff, is in Acts 2, the fellowship of the believers, very famous passage. It says every day they went between gathering for worship in the temple and prayer and eating together in their homes. Gathering in the temple for worship and scattering into their homes. And that was a model that sustained them right through the explosive growth of the church in Acts. And there were times, particularly when they were sent out from Jerusalem, where it wasn't possible physically or because of persecution to gather in the temple, and yet they were still able to maintain that commitment to one another, commitment to prayer, worship, Bible, to serving one another through their homes and through the network of relationships that developed. Bless you guys. Be encouraged as you explore these things together. All right, take care. Bye.